All right. Well, welcome everybody. I'm gonna see you as you come in, but I definitely want to be get started on time. As you know, these videos about inherited but not identified. And for everybody up here, I want to say stop. Go ahead and stop scrolling for a minute. Just stop what you're doing and stop scrolling for a minute. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this because uh, have you ever noticed that you're fighting a battle that you didn't start? Have you noticed that? Have you your mindset? You got a mindset that you didn't create. Struggles that you haven't chosen. You didn't choose it yourself. Cycles that were already in motion before you were ever born. Tonight, we're going to talk about something real. Just because you inherited something doesn't mean it has the authority to be declined or be over your life, right? I did write some talking points down because I want to stay on topic tonight. And like I said, I wanted to ensure that everybody get access to what is actually going on here. So when I shared it, I guess it jumped me off here. So when I shared it, I guess it jumped me off. So I want to say thank you because we're going to talk about some things. And like I said, I have talking points tonight. And if you're watching me from Facebook or YouTube or different places like that, I already sent some things out and said, join me on the platform of YouTube. Because tonight we talk about something real. Because there are people watching right now who have inherited environments, inherited trauma, and inherited cycles in their life and expectations, which is a big deal. But what you inherited does not have to have the final say over your life. So with that being said, what I want you to do is I want to talk a message tonight to simplify it, because inherited but not identified is what we're going to talk about. See, I want to go over a scripture with you, and I want everybody to know and say, welcome to my live. Welcome. If you are not my friend, go ahead and like and subscribe and share and hit the bell, because I want to go over some scriptures with you, but I also want you to really understand some things that's going on in your life that you have not inherited for yourself. You didn't inherit it. It came with you through the lineage in the genealogy. If you saw my 60 seconds, you'll see where I talked about Abraham at and how he destroyed the idols and what that did for him. And we'll get to that a little later, because it's some things that you have to destroy in your life. And I want you, if you're here, to stay here. And I want you to stop scrolling, because you inherited some traumas. You inherited the environment, you inherited some cycles, and you're fighting some things that you should not be fighting at all. You're fighting some things that came down through your genealogy. See, it's a scripture in the Bible. It says the father has eaten sour grapes, and the children's teeth are set on the edge. And that's Ezekiel 18:2. See, God was confronting a belief. God was confronting a belief system that people had to accept. They were stuck living under what previous generations did. God was letting you know, you don't got to stay right there to eat those sour grapes like some of us is doing in our life when we inherited that cycle of poverty. When we living in that environment of poverty, we fighting battles that we didn't have to fight. So my question for you tonight, guys, is just because you inherited, do it have to define your life? Just because you inherited some things, the environment, the trauma, and the cycles, do it have to define who you are as an individual? Because your identity is really tied to who you believe you are. Not your environment, not the traumas, not the cycles, not the poverty. It's tied to who you believe you are. Tonight, we are talking about inherited, but not identified. See, because in Ezekiel 18:2-4, when the father ate those grapes, we're trying to break that generational cycle that's in your life. That's what we want to do. So what do that mean right now for the people? I don't want you to leave. I want you to stay with me. What does that mean? Because a lot of times people don't want to hear the truth. They want to hear something about drama. But I want to speak truth over your life. I want to speak declarations over your life. I want you to stay here so that you can get those declarations spoke over your life. But because God says to each person is accountable for their own path. Just because your father and mother done it, don't mean you have to do it. You are accountable for your own path. You're accountable if you want to live an abundant life. You're accountable for those things in your life, not the people around you, not your environment, not your circumstances, your belief system and how you see yourself. And that is what's going on. You're speaking those things over your life because that's what you saw your father and mother do. So you're bringing it down through your words over your life. Do you know you could change your life by the words you speak? Because the words you speak is the way you believe. You don't have to accept the abuse. You don't have to accept the poverty. You don't have to accept being broke. You don't have to accept not owning your own home or riding a hoopty car or your bank accounts on empty. These are the things you're saying. You're limiting yourself through your perception instead of speaking abundance over your life. You're living that. You're saying those things about your life. When you say, I can't afford it. When you say those things, you're saying that to yourself. So the doors close up like this. How about you just say, yes, I got it. We get ready to go for it. And watch how the doors begin to open and expand for you. Let me go here because I want you to understand what I'm saying. So I'm going to go back to Abraham because a lot of times people feel that they're living under Abraham covenant when actuality they're living under the oldest brother Jethro's covenant or their grandfather Terah's covenant, the idol worshiper, or Ham's covenant, his uncle. They're not living under the Abraham covenant. Why do I say that? Because Abraham became, when he broke that idol of his father's, Terah, he broke the idol because his father was an idol maker and an idol seller. Abraham broke the idol. And right then he found a favor with God. What idols are in us right now? And you're trying to see what you walking around serving. Some people say money, cars, clothes, or whatever. Your idol is your mindset, the way you believe. Have you ever thought of idol like that? Is your belief system? Have you ever put the idol with your belief system? See how big a deal that is? Some of you have not put the idols with your belief system. And your belief system of poverty, that's an idol. You idolizing poverty, your environment. Where I live in this environment where we don't have much. You idolizing that environment. You're doing that. You're saying that. Make the environment the best environment ever. Y'all look at these movies, and I always go back to these movies because, especially with these cartoons, right? Because the cartoons tell a lot about how people mindset is. And I want to go to the one about the Princess and the Frog. The Princess and the Frog, and they got the updated one. If you look at the movie and how it's made or displayed, you'll see the brown people live in a ran down area in that movie, but you'll see the Caucasian people live in a white fancy neighborhood, right? And the daddy was always cooking and loving. His wealth was in serving people. See, sometimes we look at things. Wealth is literally in serving people, but we want riches in wealth. And if you go to the scriptures and we talk about Solomon, and I'm going to lean in here. You see me getting a little closer to the camera, and I see some of y'all going in and out, in and out. I want to lean in. God told Solomon in his dream. If you don't know who Solomon is, he's David's son, the king's son, who didn't understand how to operate in the kingdom. And his daddy was the king. That meant David did not teach him. He went in his dream, and God said, "What do you ask of me?" And he said, "I don't even know how to go in and out. I'm just a young boy. I wasn't taught these things." Because remember, David was not only a worshiper, he was a man of war. And now since the war is over, and y'all know the environment we in right now, we're in a warrior's environment. But we also got some worshipers that's warriors. because it's always a spiritual undertone. Stick with me here. Solomon said, I need the wisdom. I need the wisdom on learning how to go in and out, because God, these are your people, so many that I can't count. Teach me how to serve them and judge them and do the things the correct way. God said, these things you asked for, you didn't ask for the riches or live a long life or these things. He said, you didn't ask that. He said, but what you did ask for was wisdom. He said, because you didn't ask that, I'm going to give you the wealth as well as the riches. Hello, how you doing? Thank you for joining me here on live. Thank everybody for being here. We had up to 26 people. We're down, but it's okay, because the ones that's here supposed to be here. I'm only going to be here for another 20 minutes. So invite your family and friends and stay here, because I want to speak some blessings over your life. I want you to go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to be live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 30 days. But I'm going to send out the 60-second videos that's going to talk about what I'm going to talk about in the month. And this month, we talk about inherited, but not identified. It's because, see, you're identifying with some circumstances that's really, you could break generational curses from. But see, you don't know how, because you haven't identified how to do it. And that's what I'm teaching you tonight, how to identify, how to break things. And I'm going to talk about the scriptural things on how to break these poverty mindsets. No, I don't care if we in recession or inflation or whatever. It's all about the words you say. You don't have to live paycheck to paycheck. You are declaring that over your life. You're saying those things over your life. You're speaking those things over your life. When Abram broke that idol in his father Terah's house, he broke not only the idol, and Terah uprooted his family from Abram. He brought Lot, because Lot, father Haran died, so his grandfather's taken care of. He brought Abram's wife Sarah and his other son with him, right? I want y'all to follow me here. He took them with him out of the country they was in. But God took it a step further in Abram's life. He took it a step further. God told Abram to get thee from among thy kinsmen. See, sometimes God moves us from one location to another, but we want to go back to that same cycle. And you go back to the same cycle that God moved you from, but you was living in abundance before you left. Who did this remind you of in the scriptures? Who left because they was in a recession, right? I want y'all, who did this remind you of, right? Because we talk about Boaz in the scriptures, and when Naomi came back with her daughter-in-law and told her daughter-in-law, you can stay here. She had two daughter-in-laws. One of them went back to her family to the same cycle they was in. And the other daughter-in-law said, where you abide, I abide. Where you go, I go. To God you serve, I serve. Yes, they was in a recession, but by the time Naomi and her daughter-in-law went back, there was no longer in a recession. See, we leave our blessed place to go back or go somewhere that God didn't tell us to go. Naomi didn't just lose her husband. She lost her two sons too. And not only did she lose her two sons, she was about to lose her two daughter-in-laws. But one of them went back to her family, to the same cycle to serve those gods, those idols and everything else. But one of them went and said, no, Naomi, I'm going to stay with you, which was Ruth. She said, whoever you serve, I'm going to serve. Where your God is, I'm going to serve. I'm going to serve you. I'm here for you. My husband died, but I'm still your daughter-in-law. See, Abram was not just a worshiper of the true and living God. He was human, just like we are. He was human, just like we are. He made mistakes too. He listened to his wife Sarah when he went to sleep with Hagar, but that's neither here or there. We're not talking about that tonight. What we're talking about is what was spoke and what he did to break the generational curse over his life. And some of us got to break these curses over our life. God did another step when he told Terah to get up and move, right? Because he told him to get up and move. Now, where was Terah going? Who was Terah the lineage of? He was the lineage of Shem. We're talking about Noah, his three kids. Now, Ham already had Canaan. If y'all read the scriptures, Canaan was already born before Ham left. That's the Canaanites, right? Ham did something to his father that his father spoke a curse over him. Ham was the youngest. If y'all got a younger sibling, y'all know how they are. They spoil, they do things that you know is not right sometimes. But you, as the oldest, which was Jethro, I think his name was Jethro, I don't know how to say these names, and Shem was the middle. Noah even said that Jethro was going to live in the tents with Shem. Shem, Abram is the son of Terah, whose Terah is under the lineage of Shem. Y'all see how this is going? It goes through the lineages in the book of Genesis, but I want to say some things to you. Just because you're born in certain environments, in a certain genealogy, don't mean you have to be there. Because even when it's talked about in Ezekiel about the grapes, God said you choose your own path. God was telling Terah to go take over Canaanite, which belonged to Ham, his uncle's land, right? Y'all see Ham. Canaan was Terah's first cousin because God already said that it was going to be blessed. But I'm going to tell you another thing God did. He showed Abraham that his people was going to be enslaved for 400 years. Guys, I'm going to tell you this. Some 400 years been over. But some of you guys, I ain't going to say us because I'm not in slavery in my mind. Some of you are still in slavery in your mind. You got to break that slavery mentality off your mind. Break those generation curses off your mindset. Quit speaking these curses over your life. I'm broke. Oh, I can't afford it. I want to do that, but I had limited income. You're saying these things, and God's trying to open up abundance over your life. It's your perception. So I'm going to go back to this movie, The Princess and the Frog, right? And they said if you kiss this frog, he'll turn into a princess. But it had to be true love because the Caucasian girl in this movie that I'm talking about thought she could kiss the frog because she was already wealthy. She didn't understand that the brown girl that turned into the frog when she kissed the frog of the wish was going to do it. But what happened to me, and God is giving me this revelation right now while I'm talking to you, so I'm glad you're still here. Thank you for giving me the thumbs up, whoever you are. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for liking, sharing, and everything else. Listen to this revelation. She had to walk the path of the frog at the same time that the prince was doing. It brings me to this point. My husband liked to say that wasn't with me when I was riding the bus. Sometimes when you in the place with the people, y'all grow up with them at the same time. And men, I want to talk to you if you up here, if you're going back looking at this video. And I want to talk directly to you men. When you are older, the word of God says, stay with your wife of your youth. Some men decide to go find younger women because at certain points in women's life, we go through this thing called menopause, put the men on pause because we got to deal with these emotions, the up and down roller coasters in our life. But men, what you don't understand, you do the same thing. You just don't have the mood swings more deep like we do. And you'll leave your wife of your youth to go get a younger version and looking for that same outcome that you had with that woman that was with you when you were riding the bus and that grew up with you and took care of you and y'all grew up at the same time. You got to think about some of these decisions that you're making to go to a younger woman and you make the wife of your youth a little bit bitter. Because if a woman do that, you'll feel that she's wrong. We're in this thing together all the way to the end. It's a maturity thing. It's some mood swings that we go through and we got to deal with them on a certain level. If you stick with us and ride with us, we're still that same woman. We're just maturing at a different level with the mood swings. I don't care. I'm still taking care of myself and I'm in a menopause state right now, premenopause, so they say. But I don't want to let myself go, but do my mood swings happen? Yes, they do. But guess what? I ask God to guard my mouth and guard who I am. And I have to have some time alone to do it because some of the things that people do really gets under my skin just like that. But y'all got to also realize to give us the space we need so we can deal with it within ourselves because it's an internal fight. Not only is it internal in the spiritual, it's also internal in our natural body. Okay? So back to the movie of The Princess and the Frog, she was with him in the forest. She turned to the frog with him. She got to know him in the forest as he was hopping around. She got to know him in the deep, darkest parts of his life to know what he liked and what he understood as well. Because he was being raised in the palace his whole life. He didn't understand what it means not to have somebody to serve him. So she had to teach him that part. Like, hold up, we both frogs right now. I'm not your servant. You want to be free, just like I don't want to be here either. So he had to learn lessons just like she did. But she already had the humble lesson because she was looking for something greater in her life. Whether she had it or not, she knew how to respect those animals. She knew how to take care of people around her. And she walked with him for him to learn that at the same time. How many of you got people in your life, your friends and family, that you take them for granted? They're in your life, but you misuse and abuse their kindness. They're with you and they're trying to teach you some things, but you take it for granted and you want the support from them, but you don't support them when they're on their journey and on their path to understanding. Are you taking heed to what they're saying and learning? Because that prince, because the female that became the frog with him, guess what happened? She was teaching him, but he was also learning. He learned how to serve her. But he did know some things that she didn't know either. He did know how to speak to an upper class of animals that was in the forest. He did know. Because sometimes we, the humble people that didn't live in that type of environment to speak to the kings and queens, remember, he was also a prince, to understand that language on how to communicate with them. Sometimes we're in the wrong environment and don't know how to use our voice to speak on an educated level to kings and queens in the level of a king and queen. So we have to learn from each other, and that's what they did. So, and I'm going to leave that movie from The Princess and the Frog because I want to let you know that sometimes when you're walking with people, walk with them all the way. Don't give up on them so early. Stay with them husbands. Wives, stay with your husbands. Even though it seems hard, it ain't time for you to leave. It's time for you to stick with them. I'm not saying stay in abusive relationships. No, that ain't what I'm saying. I ain't saying stay with somebody that's cheating and misusing you and abusing you. I know y'all used to that type of drama. That ain't what I'm saying. But I'm saying just because they don't have that type of job or winning the way you want them to, do not mean that you should leave that person. That is not what it means. I have a few more minutes before I let you go because I want to make sure that I'm up here for 30 minutes because I know you have families. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Thank you for being up here with me. Thank you for sharing it with your family. I'm going to build my platform on YouTube and I want you here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but my 60 seconds will also be coming from here. I want you to know that you inherited more than poverty, more than trauma, more than your environment. You inherited abundance, which is a big, big, big deal. Okay, like I let you know at the beginning, I did take notes because I want you to understand that who you think you are, it says people without identity live reacting to life. If you don't know who you are, you're reacting to life. But if you know your identity, you govern your life in your environment. Just because you're living in an area you don't want to live in, fix that area up just like it's a castle. If you only got a car that's been used and you pay cash for, and I love those type of cars, I still act like it's brand new and I take care of it. I name it. It's my car until God bless me with another one. Because when you drive it off the lot, it's now used anyway and it depreciates. I get my car serviced. I keep it maintained so it don't go out on me. I call it black beauty because it's black inside and out. It is beautiful to me and it fits who I am. It is a QX80. I got it in 2014. It's a 2015 and I paid it off in 3 years and it's still going. And people look at it still think it's brand new. Drove it right off the lot myself with 0 miles. And back then, it was inflation too. And my husband was worried about gas prices. I said, because I'm the favor, I have God's favor, the gas prices dropped the next day. It was never a default of my life to worry about that or worry about how I was going to make a payment. Because I know who I am and whose child I am. And sometimes you forget because we're human. But I'm here to remind you that you're the child of the Most High. You have abundance tied to you if you believe that you are the lineage of Abraham. I'm going to go back to that right there. People behave according to how they see themselves. That's how you behave. If I see myself as a queen, I'm act like a queen, and that's how I see myself. Do you know I don't only see myself like that? People call me queen. Hey, queen, Queen Shaniqua. The queen is here. They call me that because that's how I walk and that's how I treat myself. That's how I take care of myself. What about you? It ain't because of my husband identify me like that. My husband don't make me who I am. God made me who I am. My identity is tied in Christ, just like yours is. Just like yours is. I want y'all to really understand, even right now, because we're dealing in wars right now. We are warriors and we also worshipers. When Lot got taken, Abraham put 300 men, them warriors that was with him, that he trained, and he went and got his nephew back. He went against a king. And he brought Lot and his family back out. That's what he did. He took 300 men and went and got his nephew against a whole, brigade, battalion, whatever he went against. And he went and got his nephew. How many of you can say the same thing because you heard the voice of God? Let's talk about what in Joshua 24:2 says. It says, your fathers dwell on the other side of the river, Tyre. We're talking about Abraham, Terah, the father of Abram, and they serve other gods. Abram was born into a household of idol worshipers. But Genesis 12:1, it says, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred. God was not just moving Abram geographically. He was moving him out of a generational system. God is moving you from a generational system. That's big. That's big for me. That is big for you. Why do you go back in those generational systems that God moved you from? I'm from North Carolina, but I live in Texas. And I was trying to go back to North Carolina. God said, I didn't tell you to go back. He said, I told you were going to retire in Texas. I'm not saying that anything is going on. I don't know because I haven't lived there since I was 18. I go back and visit, but it's not for me. It's not for me. I see how they are. I remember how I was raised, going through back doors and things like that. See, Abram became the disruptor in his bloodline. He broke the cycle. Are you the disruptor in your bloodline? But you going back to that poverty. You went back to worshiping those idols. You went back to the weed or the drugs or the drinking. You went back to those cycles that God broke you from. Are you the disruptor in your bloodline and you try to go back and you see that God didn't choose and tell you to go back there? You was the disruptor. You moved from over there. See, every generation must confront something. They must confront that poverty thinking, the fear of opportunity, and the limiting beliefs. Survival mentality instead of kingdom mentality. You got to confront that. What idols was in Abram's father's house? Some mindset, the same mindset that is in ours. God introduced Abram to abundance. Right after you leave the environment, God spoke blessings and expansion. The same thing God doing for your life. He said, I will make thee a great nation and I will bless thee. God immediately introduced Abram to a different system, not scarcity. Kingdom abundance. The same thing God want to introduce to you. Poverty is just not a condition. You have to agree with it. So I want to leave you with this. You are abundance of generation. You come from abundance lineage. So why don't you act like it and believe it? Thank you for joining me. Like and share. And I said only 30 minutes, so I want to end with this. And I want to pray you out. I want God to bless you from this point on. I want to speak declarations over your life. And say these things. God, thank you for changing my mindset. Thank you for my expanding territory. Thank you for my blessings. From this moment on, I will not and I refuse to live in scarcity. I do choose abundance and expansion in kingdom living. Thank you guys so much. And I pray that these videos bless you. See you soon.